I'll be going column by column and trying to explain everything. And I have a few notes made out, and I'll be trying to address each and every query which you guys face or which you might face in the near future whenever you are going through. So let's start with the first section. First is the AMMC account information, which is the basic information where you'll enter your name, first name, last name. Just make sure one point which I want to emphasize is just like for any document in India, whatever is written on your Aadhaar card is like the full and final thing. For any document in the US, make sure whatever name is written on your passport or whatever address, if they have written the spelling of apartments as APPT instead of APT, that will be what will be there in all your official documents in the US. Okay. So just keep in mind you have to maintain that similarity throughout. Okay. So this is your basic information. Then you can naturally fill up your gender, email ID, birth date, and everything. All right. Now coming to the basic information, again, you fill your preferred name over here. And this is something which ERAS started last year to create an inclusive kind of environment for everyone. They have given options for all kinds of pronouns. So based on what your pronouns are or what you prefer to be addressed with, you can choose whatever is there. Okay. This is an important step in inclusion. You might have heard a lot of things about LGBT rights and everything. So this is a part of it. Okay. Then your preferred phone number, mobile phone, alternate phone, all these numbers can be put according to your convenience. So one common question which a lot of people ask in this during the ERAS time and on various forums is, do we need to have a US phone number? Personally, I did not benefit much from having a US number on my ERAS CV, but I have heard stories from some people that when they reached out to a certain person who reached out to a certain program director, so the program director, that was maybe in the end of January when your season is coming to an end, that time the program director tried to schedule a telephonic interview with the candidate, and that was possible because of the preferred phone number. Okay. So that is why some people say that having a US phone number is absolutely important on your ERAS CV. Okay. And how to get a US number. So if you are someone who's already in the US, you will naturally be taking Verizon, T-Mobile, or Mint Mobile, etc. All right. And you will have a regular plan. If you are someone who is in India, so you have options for either Google Voice Call or you have options for Skype. And I think there are other services which give you free US numbers, which you can easily access through various apps on your phone. All right. So that is some way to keep connected with the US system. Coming to the address part, address is something very basic which you guys will fill up. Very simple. You fill up your current mailing address, your permanent address. So for some people, permanent and current mailing address are the same thing. What most people tell you is that your permanent address should be your address in your home country, wherever you are, be it in India, US, or whatever. Okay. And a common confusion which a lot of people try to address, and one more thing which I've seen on a lot of forums is people asking this question: does having a US address on your ERAS CV affect your chances? For me, if I take my example, I would say it didn't really help me out. I had a Texas address as my current mailing address, and I didn't get even a single interview from Texas. Okay. But for one of my friends, she had a New York address on her mailing address because she was there for her step 3 and rotation. So she did manage to get a couple of interviews from New York. I don't know if it was because of the address or because of her profile, but in general, she got a couple of interviews, and they did ask her that why she preferred New York and things like that. So that could be a general question also, but that might point out to an address also. So that is what people say, that if you have a US address, just put it in. If you don't have, don't break your head and don't worry about it. All right. They have given work authorization. So all of you who are IMGs over here and who have not been authorized to work in the US, which is if you don't have a J1 work visa or any kind of visa, like the H1 or H4 or whatever. If you don't have these, so naturally you're not authorized to work in the US. This is no. what is your current work authorization. So naturally, if you don't have any work authorization, you leave this blank. Okay, that is it. And then naturally, if you are a visa requiring candidate, then you will be choosing yes over here, which is very understandable. Then which kind of visa will you seek for sponsorship? It will be either H1B or J1. Okay. And if you're someone who does not require a visa, then you will be choosing from these options. Okay. And if you currently reside in the United States or Canada, just tell the state or province. Another insignificant column, but it has to be filled. It's a compulsory filling column, so you just fill it up. All right, wherever you are in the US. If not, just leave it. All right. So next we come to the other columns. That is the match information. So over here, everyone is allowed to participate in an NRMP match. Naturally, your NRMP ID is something which will come somewhere in the month of January. I think December to January is the time when they give you your NRMP ID. Okay, because it opens up in October, November, right? And you pay that $70-$80 fees, and then you get the NRMP ID. Okay, that's all. And for people who are participating in couples match, if you're as a couple applying for residency, so you just apply as a couple over here and fill in the requested details. Okay, nothing much to think about over here, and we proceed ahead. Moving on to the additional information part. Additional information, you fill up your ECFMG ID, Usmle ID, whatever you have been using throughout the time. Okay, these things are not for you. The DO applicants ID and stuff like that, this is not for you. Even these things are not for you. Alpha, Omega, Sigma, Gold, Humanism, these things are not for you. All right. What is important for you in this section is the ACLS, CALS, BLS section. Okay. So if you're someone who is certified in the US or who has done any ACLS course certified by the agencies in the US, you can fill it up over here. If you're someone who has not done it, I would say don't really waste your money on it and spend another $10,000-$15,000 on doing these ACLS and BLS courses. It's okay, because either ways, most of the programs in the US will make you repeat all these things once you join the residency program. All right. So it's not really important. And personally, I don't think it will hamper anyone's chances with the interviews. All right. But if you're someone who has already done it, you're free to enter the information. Okay. Another thing which a lot of people break their head on, and I have also done the same thing. I used to keep asking my seniors that should I do ACLS, BLS, and I never got a clear answer until I contacted one of my attendings, right? So this will work. Moving on to the next thing, the biographic information. So biographic information is very basic, what you will fill up. So if you are an Asian, you'll fill up this column, and if you're an Indian, you'll fill up Indian. If Pakistani, you'll fill up Pakistani, etc. All right. Okay. Coming to the language fluency. So this is something again which is a lot, which has a lot of discussion, especially about the language Spanish. Okay. So a lot of people tell you that programs in Texas and Florida give a lot of importance to candidates who have learned Spanish. So personally, I had no experience with that, and I never made an effort to learn Spanish, to be very honest. But if you're someone who knows Spanish, to some extent, you might have a good chance, and the programs in Florida might be more interested in you, because over there, a lot of people prefer Spanish compared to English, right? So that is the only advantage over here. Again, when you fill up the columns over here, like if you fill up English, Hindi, Punjabi, whatever, Gujarati, anything. So these are the options you get to choose from. Is it native, functionally native? So I think if you are from India, so most of the people over here are native Hindi speakers. So you will put this as native or functionally native. Whereas when it comes to English, most of you will fill it up as advanced. What it means is mentioned over here. So if you are a native speaker, that means you can speak in that language in all situations every time. Okay, if it is advanced, that means you can speak very accurately. But if a native speaker will hear you, they will understand that you're not a native speaker, which basically means that your accent is not similar to a native American speaker. All right. So that is where you fill up advanced. Whereas good, fair, and basic is based on your situations. Like I would say, if I had to fill up this, for me, native would be Hindi, advanced would be English. good would be Punjabi, and fair or basic would be Kannada for me. All right, because I studied in South India, so I had a basic idea about it. Okay, are we clear till here? Okay, so again, military information. I think most of you have not been committed to US military, and if you are, I'm not really aware of it. Okay, so most of it is no over here. Okay, this is a new column which has been added. So the hometown. Okay, so in this, people can fill up wherever they have currently or previously lived. Like over here, if you are in a particular city in India, and you can write all these things over here, setting as in rural, urban, suburban. I don't know the importance of this section for the program directors, but while I was going through it, they were saying that they just want to, this is more for the American graduates, they just want to see that where they are coming from and if they can discuss about them or if they have some connection with that area. So maybe something like an interview criteria where they can talk about, oh, you are from this place in Ohio, like Toledo or something. So something like that. All right. So I think we are clear till here. Now we'll come to the important parts of your ERAS CV. This is something which was earlier a part of your supplemental ERAS, starting from geographical preferences to later on. And earlier, I would say in me and my other friends, so we were not really serious about supplemental ERAS. We used to think it was just an additional part. Like we used to fill in the information properly, but then everyone had that impression that, okay, it is not as important as your ERAS CV. But cutting down all those discussions, now ECFMG has made it clear that your supplemental ERAS is a part of your main ERAS. So you have to take it seriously. Okay. So now the first and foremost thing, a very complicated decision for a lot of people is the geographical preferences. So what is there in this? Let me just open it. Yeah. So earlier, like what I did, I had written I do not have any division preference when I was filling up my geographical preferences. My mindset was, and how I explained it was, I wanted to tell the program directors that I was easily adaptable and ready to work anywhere. Okay. But now, when the geographical preferences are a part of your ERAS CV, I think you should have something, some specification about your geographical preference. Okay. And one issue which a lot of people were worried about, like suppose if I select the, let's just say Pacific region, okay, then what about the programs in, let's just say Ohio would think about me? So the programs in Ohio would not be able to see that you have selected the Pacific region as your geographical preference. Okay. So if a program director in Ohio opens your application and you have filled up your geographical preference as Pacific, for him, it will be like you have not really had any geographical preference. But if a program director in the Pacific region opens your geographical preferences, what he will see is that you have given preference to the Pacific region and why. Okay. So the why is something which you can explain in your own language. Okay. This is a sample of which one of my friend had written. So they had written that the region offers a perfect blend of university and community-based hospitals along with rural and urban-based programs, thereby providing a host of opportunities to learn and grow. After visiting my extended family here, I feel a sense of belonging that will enable me to serve the communities better. Okay. So this is a very fancy way of telling that you have family ties over there. And this is what you have to write over here, right? The main trick over here is everyone will have some kind of family ties, everyone will have something to write, but how you explain it is different. Like if someone in the Pacific region is seeing your application, they should know that why is this person actually interested in coming to the Pacific region. They have a family here, like this person over here. He mentioned that after visiting my extended family here, I had a sense of belonging that will enable me eventually to serve the communities better. So this kind of shows to the program directors that, okay, this person is really interested in settling and working in this area. So we should give him a chance. Okay. So that is the main fundamentals of your geographical preference. Personally, if you ask me if geographical preference matters, this is the data which I have from the survey which was done for 21-22 math cycle. So they mentioned that a significant proportion of the applications, that is 52 to 82%, they expressed at least one geographical division interest. All right. Whereas most of the applicants, this is the separate part, that 46 to 81% of the applicants did not choose between rural and urban. Okay. I'll just come to that. So like you can see, a majority of people had chosen geographical preferences. So I would say that if I was someone who was applying in the 2024 math cycle, I would personally give importance to geographical preferences, because I want the people in that area to realize that I am actually interested in working in that area. Okay. So let's just say if you have put Pacific over here and if you have put West, North, Central over here. So the programs in Pacific will be able to see that you're interested in Pacific only. All right. Like it's mentioned over here, that if you select a particular division, then only programs located in that division and to which you apply in that division will see your response. Okay. Others won't be able to see, like the West, North, Central ones won't be able to see that you're interested in Pacific. They will just see that, oh, you're interested in the West, North, Central area. All right. And whereas other programs, which are, let's just say, in New England area, they will not be, if you have not chosen it in any of the 3 entries, they will not be able to see it. For them, it will be like, okay, he or she is open to work anywhere. Okay. So that's it. And if I remember correctly, when I was filling up my supplemental ERAS, which is last year, they just had one column over here and you had to just put in 3 areas over there and just one column to fill up whether you prefer that area or lack of preference of that area. Same, we had a 300 character limit. Okay, so there was one column, but now you have to give an explanation for all 3 columns. Okay. Now coming to setting preference, this is what I was talking about. So setting preference basically means rural, rural or suburban, 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 urban, or no preference. Okay. So if you ask me what I felt, so like I told you that we don't really have a choice. If we get a rural program, if we get an urban program, if we get a suburban program, for us as IMGs, the main goal is to just get into the system and then climb the ladder, right? So this is what I had written during my supplemental ERAS. I hope you guys can see it. Unfortunately, the font of this is very weird, so you can just scroll through like that. So this is what I wrote. Addressing healthcare care is equally important in urban and rural areas, and I believe I would be able to justify my role as a physician in all settings. Okay, in both the settings, given my experience in dealing with people belonging to different walks of life and different socioeconomic strata. So this is a very fancy way of saying that you have no preference and you are willing to work in the rural or urban area. Okay, so let me just summarize you the main help or the main goal what people really need while filling up their ERAS CV is shaping their experiences and writing it in a fluent language so that it casts an impression. Okay, if you had to describe this lack of preference and you just write that I have family all over US and I am willing to adjust and I'm very adaptable, willing to work anywhere in the US, that won't give a very good impression, I would say, compared to something where you try to highlight that you have experience in both rural and urban settings coming from India. You have worked in rural centers and everything. So you are easily adaptable and can work anywhere throughout the US. Okay. So this is what you highlight. One more pro tip which I would try to give to anyone, and you will hear it even if you pay someone $500, even if you pay someone $10, this is the same thing they'll tell you, that you have to show the core qualities through every answer you write. Some qualities which I'll discuss later on, but like team building, leadership, communication, adaptability, all these qualities, these 4 characteristics, try to shape each and every answer around these 4 characteristics, and that is the key of filling a perfect ERAS CV. All right. So this is what we fill up till here. This is a geographical and regional preference. This is something. If anyone is outside the US system, they'll obviously choose none, because this higher education is for graduate and undergraduate courses which you have done in the US model. Okay, in the US. Okay, for I think most of the Indians, this is none, or even Asian people who have not studied anything in the US, I think this will be none. Coming to medical education, so yeah, you will write your country where you have studied and everything related to your degree, month and year. So one more clarification in this, which everyone faces. So yeah, naturally, if you are from India, your degree will be MBBS, which is this Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery. degree month will be whatever is written on your final degree, and degree year will be whatever is written on your degree. So this is a common confusion which people face, and I would tell you that I still had this confusion till my visa appointment day. So the degree month and degree year is the confusion which you are talking about. So I would like to say that I would give you an example. So I graduated in June of 2021, but my degree got printed and came in June of 2022. That is, my convocation happened in June of 2022. So during my ERAS CV, I had written June 2021 as my degree date. But then later on, my seniors told me that whatever is written on your final degree, the final printed degree, if it is June 2022, you should mention that only for all official purposes. Okay. So my confusion about this was, so I had the Karnataka medical license. So I got it in June 2021. So I assumed that if I am free to practice according to the KMC license, that means I graduated in 2021 naturally. But according to the US rules and everything, whatever is written on your final degree, which is the degree which will be verified by ECFMG, ERAS, everyone, that is what has to be your final degree year. So if it was June 2022, you have to mention June 2022, okay, and not June 2021. No one cares if you started practicing from then. That doesn't matter. That will go in your work experience. But over here, it will be 2022. All right. No more confusions about the degree year. And dates of education. So this can be from your start date. So if you're someone who's from 2015 batch and you completed in 2021, but you took a gap for 1 year and you got your degree, let's just say in 2023, 1 year for electives and everything. So your degree year can be 2023, but your dates of education would be from the start of your MBBS to the end of your final year. Okay. All right. I hope this is clear to everyone. Again, the postgraduate training is something which will be filled up by people who have done postgraduate trainings in India, but not for anyone else. Okay. So I think we are clear till here. Proceed ahead. So coming to additional information. So memberships in honorary professional societies. Again, this is based on whatever I heard from my seniors and everyone else giving advice all over. So everyone said that the basic fundamental is that you should not leave any column in your ERAS CV empty. Okay. So that is why most of us, me and most of my friends, we bought these $40 membership in American Medical Association, American College of Physicians. Does it help? Does it not help? I would say no one really knows. But the only goal this achieved was it tried to like just fill one column in my ERAS CV. All right. Also, if you meet someone who is very engrossed in your CV, he might ask you that why did you register to the American College of Physicians, ACP? So that time you can mention, if you are someone like, I know a lot of people, including my friends, they had published and they had gone for case presentations to different ACP conferences. So that is the time you get to talk and showcase your conference knowledge, that you had gone to a certain conference organized by the ACP, you presented a paper there, and etc. etc. So let's just say if you have actually done some work, then it is worth mentioning over here, because in that way, this question will help you showcase another thing in your interview. So if you remember the first sentence I told you, that whatever you do in the US, it is based on your face value and whatever you can show it to them and how you present it to them. So if you had mentioned this ACP thing over here and they picked up this topic, they ask you a question, then you get to show off your ACP conferences, whatever you attended, and you get to talk about it, which again gives you brownie points for your interviews. Okay. So that is again the trick for all your interview prep, which we'll discuss subsequently. All right. Okay. Now coming to medical school awards and other awards and accomplishments. Again, these are just 510 characters. So I think you can mention maximum 3 to 4 lines. So what I had in mind was, in medical school, if you are someone who has distinction and everything, you can mention over here. I never had any distinctions. So I wrote whatever awards I got related to academics in medical school. And I wrote other awards, like I used to play basketball. I was involved in setting up the fest in my college in this particular year. I was a runner-up in a space settlement design competition. These things I mentioned in other awards. So again, whether these columns showcase anything, okay, they might showcase that this person has been academically very strong. This column might show that this person has an all-round personality. He has won a lot of awards here and there, and that's all. Just remember one thing. So I know some people try to just fake it out. They'll write that I got some award here and there, and they've not done it. So if you have not done it, my request to you is please do not mention it. If you have done something, like if you have played little basketball and if you have been a runner up in a certain tournament, you can talk about forever. So you can mention that over here. Okay. So just remember that whatever you are mentioning on your CV, it can be a potential question. So always mention it carefully. Okay. So if you have mentioned this pediatrics quiz over here, let's just take an example. So you should really be able to describe what exactly happened, what did you do it, where was it held, and how many people were there, etc., etc. I'm just giving you examples. No one might go into so many details, but it is better to know it. Okay, because any word in your CV is a potential question. Okay, that earlier, ERAS had no cap on filling up the number of experiences, so people used to fill everything possible. Even if they did one week conference, they used to fill that. If they worked with a tree plantation NGO, they used to fill that. If they were working with an NGO just collecting cash and providing funding and everything, they used to mention that as a separate experience. So I would say this is a good thing or bad thing, I don't know, but I feel this is a better thing for everyone, because now people will write to the point experiences. Program directors would know that they have to go through just 10 limited experiences. Okay, be it research, be it volunteering, be it USC, everything. So that is how it will help the program directors. I don't know how much it will help the candidate. So this is one example of what I had done. I have put in a couple of examples over here. So this is one of the NGOs with which I worked, called the Buds NGO. Experience type. So this is an NGO. What work I did, I was a volunteer over here. So I would choose this volunteer service advocacy. Okay. So now if you are doing something like US clinical experience, I think it will come in education and training. If you are doing something like an internship, that will come in work. If you are working in some hospital, be it a government job, JR-ships, etc. in India, that will come in work. If you are doing a research on a research position, research volunteer, or research elective, that will come in the research experience. Okay. If you're someone who's from AFMC and has done compulsory military service, then you will add that over here. Okay. Then other extracurricular activities can be something for people who don't have sufficient 10 experiences and they want to talk about something different, like they want to talk about their basketball experience or any sport experience, then they can choose this. Okay. And if you have been teaching and mentoring with various agencies, I'll just give you an example later on, then you can choose this. If you are working in a professional organization, like if you are someone who has started their own professional organization, let's just say for CV editing, PS review, or anything, you can mention over there, or your any startups or anything, because a lot of people do that. I know a lot of people who had various startups during COVID. So if they had to fill this up, they would be able to put very meaningful experiences. All right. So coming back to our experience, so this is an NGO where I was working as a volunteer. What will be my position? My position will be a volunteer over here. Start date is whatever date you started on. As far as I remember, you don't get to fill up the date over here. Okay. I don't know in the new ERAS CV if you can fill up the date, but I remember when we had it, we just had to fill up the month. So you can check with that when the ERAS CV turns out, like when the application season opens. So if the start and end dates have to be written, so naturally you have to write the exact dates. Most of the people have experiences were 4 weeks, 8 weeks, like that. Okay. So again, you fill up all the required information over here. Then now they want to know your participation frequency. So these are the options over here, like one time, like if it was a one-time thing, which I would encourage people not to write unless you don't have any other experience. So suppose if you had an experience of tree plantation and you just did it one time in one time during 1 month, so you just write it as one time. But I don't think it will count as a significant experience. If it is something which is done daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, I think that would be more significant. So most of your experiences would be either daily or weekly. Okay. So yeah. So like if this was something like a volunteering experience for me, So this was an NGO where I used to go for 2 or 3 days in a week. So this will be a weekly experience for me. I used to go to a rural setting. We had this mobile van which used to go, and we had an OPD inside the mobile van. So I used to go from village to village in the Delhi NCR region, and this was a weekly kind of thing. Okay. So again, setting would be rural, won't be an urban setting. Okay. Now this is something which is very important and which they focus on. Okay. So what was the primary focus area of this activity which you did? Okay. So was it basic science? Like if you're somebody who's tutoring people for basic science, that could be an example. If it's clinical transitional science, if you're, I would say this would come for someone who's doing research. Okay. They're working more on science. If it is community involvement and outreach, this experience for me could come in community involvement or outreach. Okay. But I wrote it in improving access to healthcare because that is what I was trying to do. Okay. Could be either of the things. So you see, there's a lot of overlap in all these things. So let's just say if you are working in two NGOs, suppose I was working in two NGOs and I want to put both those experiences. So one experience would be community involvement and outreach, and the other experience could be improving access to healthcare. And based on that, you can modify your explanation, which you will be writing in this 750 character limit column. Okay. So I would give you, if I had to give you an example. So for me, community outreach was something which I did in Cleveland when I was rotating at Metro Health for 8 weeks. So what I did over there was I was a part of this community health fair which they organized, which was basically an outreach camp where they wanted to address the issues faced by various communities in rural parts of Cleveland. Like the pregnant mothers were not aware that they could get free bus tickets, they could get free healthcare up to 1 year of childbirth, and things like that. So that was more like more like a community outreach program. And my explanation in the 750 character limit was based on that. Okay. So this is the kind of way you can explain it. Customer service would be something which you are giving. In the medical field, I don't see any example of that. But during COVID, if I remember, customer service could be someone like if you are working and providing food, like a lot of people were providing meals 3 times a day to COVID patients. That could be something like a customer service. Healthcare administration again would be something which you are trying to establish healthcare in a particular area. Okay. Medical education, again, this is something which you might be doing like if you're tutoring, mentoring and stuff like that. So this would be your primary focus area. Medical education, that means you're trying to impart education, make people aware of how to prepare for Usmle and things like that. Okay. And music, athletics, art, again, if you're filling up some kind of sports experience, like I told you over here, in this part when we were writing about other extracurricular activities. Okay, if you are mentioning extracurricular activities, then you will mention sports or stuff like that. Okay. Promoting wellness, again, if you're part of some wellness industry, like if you're a part of a mental health NGO and you're or a suicide helpline, suicide awareness NGO, stuff like that. Okay. Public health, again, for volunteering experiences. So if you're someone who's actively involved in public health, creating awareness, stuff like that, you can you can mention that. Okay. Quality improvement is something if you are working with a certain agency, like if I had to give you an example, when I was at Metro Health, what I did was I was working on a quality improvement project where we wanted to streamline the transfer of patients from the outgoing residents to the incoming residents. Like the PGY3, PGY4, when they graduate, their patients don't have a primary care provider. So our goal was to streamline the process via Epic and without much human intervention, and try to get those patients to the incoming new residents from PGY2 and PGY3, okay, respectively. So that was something like quality improvement, which we try to do. Then I know people who try to do quality improvement projects in different parts, like how to improve the life expectancy after impella insertion in cardiac procedures and stuff like that, all those fancy things. So that comes in quality improvement. Okay. Social justice advocacy. So if you're someone who has been actively involved in LGBT community rights and stuff like that, so if you're putting some experience related to it, you will be putting social justice advocacy. Like I had worked for 3 weeks in an LGBT clinic. So I had put this social justice and advocacy as the primary focus area. and my explanation was revolving around what I learned from there and what I would like to do in the future, um, as a part of social justice and advocacy for the LGBT community. All right. Again, technology. Technology is something which a lot of people had done, like during COVID, a lot of people had opened their own teleconsultation and services to triage the patients and send them to the nearest hospitals. So stuff like that. Okay. So these are the things which come over here. Okay. Now, I hope everyone is awake. I'm sorry if this is too long, but this is the major part. And after this, there is nothing much to discuss. Okay. So someone had asked me about the qualities. So I don't remember who had asked me, but yeah, these are the key characteristics which you should always focus on. So this is something which I learned when I was filling up my supplemental ERAS, that any answer you write, anything you write throughout your USMLE journey, just make sure it revolves around these qualities. So be it your LOR, be it your personal statement, be it your supplemental ERAS, be it your main ERAS. For you people, it's the main ERAS only because supplemental plus main has been combined. So these are all the qualities which you should include in some part. I'm not saying include all these qualities in one document with commas and stuff like that. Give valid examples and include this in your LORs, in your personal statements and stuff like that. Okay, it doesn't mean that you mention that I am a good team player and I have great leadership skills. You can give examples like during COVID, I was involved in setting up a rural health center. Like you guys must be knowing that the gurdwaras in India, they had they were setting up beds with oxygen cylinders for patients to provide them primary care during COVID, like just give them oxygen supply till they could be shifted to a tertiary center. So I was involved with a group of people, okay, and we tried to set up these small centers in the gurdwaras. So this is something which I wanted to showcase, and this could come in teamwork, leadership, and resilience and adaptability. Okay, why adaptability? Because in a limited resource setting, we had tried to set up something which no one could even think of. Okay, like in a religious prayer ground or prayer center, you are actually putting up camps and helping out people. So that is something which is not heard of in the US. At least during COVID, it was not heard of. I don't know about the other times. Okay. So these are the things. So teamwork and leadership, you can show it in various ways. Like one example I've given to you. Others could be if you've been the captain of your basketball team, and you can say that this quality has been inculcated in you since that time. Okay. Then self-reflection and improvement. I don't think I can think of a good example over this. But yeah, if you guys can think over it, so please add it. Resilience, adaptability, I gave it to you right now. Reliability, dependability could be something. Let's just say if you're mentoring, tutoring students throughout, like I was a mentor for a lot of students for the step one when I was done with my step one and was preparing for my match. So that could come in reliability and dependability, like a lot of people were dependent on me. Okay. Ingenuity and innovation could be something if you have worked on something interesting. Like during COVID, a couple of people I know had worked on websites where they had put trackers and stuff to track the number of cases in COVID. So if you're talking about that, that is the key characteristic. Empathy, compassion would be something if you would put, let's just say in this NGO experience that I wanted to show empathy and compassion to the patients, and that is how you will talk about it. Okay. Critical thinking, problem solving could be, let's just say what you did in COVID. Suppose you helped set up a center and stuff like that. These are the examples which are coming spontaneously at the back of my head. You can have multiple examples, but these are just examples I'm giving so that you know what to think of. Okay. And communication, again, if you are involved in certain agencies and talking in webinars, if you are a TED talker and stuff like that, if you're doing TEDx talks, everything, so you can talk about it. Okay. Very good experiences to talk about it. And you can always mention that. Okay. Of experiences. Absolutely. So if you ask me to go back in time and tell me what would I have filled up, so out of the 10 experiences, let's just say I would have filled up at least 5 to 6 US clinical experiences, because my aim would be to show that, okay, I have a lot of US clinical experience and I'm all set to work in. And rest of the 5 would be divided between research and volunteer experiences. Okay. So maybe you could put 2 volunteer and 3 research, or 3 volunteer and 2 research. So if you are someone who has done a research year, obviously you will put one very, very strong experience of your research, because 1 year, if you're working at a place, that is a very good thing. If you're doing something for 2 years at two different places, so you'll put it as two different experiences. So that is how you split it up. Okay. And like you can see, these 10 experiences can be split up into these categories, be it teaching, mentoring. So if you're like I've given all these examples, so you can just add this. And I think you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 categories to think over and put 10 experiences. Okay. So that shouldn't be a task. But if you have to put majority of experiences, that would come in your US clinic. That would be your US clinical experience. Okay. That is why people are advised to do 3 to 6 months of USC, because that's what you have to put in majorly. All right. So I hope I answered your question. Okay. So now coming to the description, context, roles and responsibilities. Okay. So this is one column which I would say, thankfully, because of one of my senior, I could write it very well. Otherwise, I had written it in a very monotonous way, like I had written assisted in providing healthcare, assisted in implementing, and assisted in teleconsultation services helpline during COVID-19. Okay. So what one of my senior, he told me was, try to have these as bullet points. I don't know if they'll come out as bullet points in your ERAS CV. You can, when you're filling it, you'll get to know. Otherwise, put these small dashes if you want. Okay. So that it's clear to the program directors when they're reading it that they're reading separate bullet points. So let's just go through the first point. So this first point was assisted in providing healthcare to marginalized communities in 30 villages around Delhi NCR in a mobile medical care van with essential OPD facilities. My role included examining around 50 to 60 patients, including infants, pregnant mothers, and the elderly, and delivering primary care and dispensing free medication. Okay. So I talked about the context, I talked about my role and responsibilities, and I talked about what I was trying to achieve through this. Like I was delivering primary care and dispensing free medications. Okay. Again, coming to the second point. So now you see there is no monotony, like I have not written assisted over here. I have written aided in implementing the ARISE vaccination program, which was a multi-pronged research, etc., during the COVID-19 pandemic in Haryana. Okay. So I worked at the grassroots level by actively engaging with the community members and faith leaders to alleviate fears and reduce vaccine hesitancy. Okay. So again, context, my role and responsibilities, and what I was trying to achieve. So what I was trying to achieve was I was trying to elevate the fear, increase awareness, and make the people reduce the vaccine hesitancy. All right. Then help set up telecommunication helpline during COVID-19 pandemic. Again, my role included triaging, remote triaging, etc. I think I've not copied the other part, but yeah, my role was about triaging and providing basic healthcare to during these tough times. Okay, this is an example. All right. So I'll go through the questions. I'll just finish these two examples so that you have a fair idea of what exactly you have to write. So the language which you are seeing over here is exactly what you have to work upon. Remember this, you write the context, you write what was your role, and you write what were you trying to achieve. Remember, you have a character limit, so you can't go overboard and talk about all qualities. Simple. What work you did, assisted over here. What was your role? You examined these patients. What were you trying to achieve? You are trying to deliver primary care and dispense free medication. Again, you were trying to reduce vaccine hesitancy, stuff like that. Okay. So coming to another experience. So this was one of the agencies where I was working as a mentor. Okay. So again, the experience type comes in education training. You could do work also, but I would suggest you do it as education training, because I think that will give a more different approach, because anyways, you will put something for work, like you have done your internship and stuff like that. Okay. So again, participation, like in this, I was doing it daily. So this would be daily. Setting urban, because it was a work from home job. I was sitting at home and using my computer and doing it. Okay. What was my primary focus? My primary focus was providing medical education. And over here, what were my key characteristics? Since I was mentoring and tutoring for step one, so I was involved in critical thinking and problem solving. Okay. So this is how I've written it. So mentored 10 to 15 students from all around the world for the step examination, formulated customized study plans and helped them achieve their goals in a time-bound fashion. assisted in creating a rapid review course for step 1 on high yield and BME concepts. Okay. So over here, I have talked about my roles and responsibilities and what I was trying to achieve. You can, so I would say I have not written it very well, like because this was a part of my main ERAS experience, and that time we were not really expected to write so much about what we have achieved in each experience. So over here, if you had to add something, you would say my aim was to alleviate the fears and make the students realize that this journey, although had a lot of hardships, but it was doable, something like that. So whatever I'm saying is just come at the back of my head and then just speaking about it. All right. Is it clear till here? So like this, you fill up your 3 experiences. Again, this is one experience for a research project which I had done in my college. So again, organization name, my medical college experiences, research, participation frequency might have been weekly because I'm talking about some project which I did in my community medicine thing, or it could be a one-time thing because if you just had one setting, we had to do weekly settings, so I chose weekly. Setting would be rural or suburban because I was collecting data from both places. Primary focus area again over here could be public health because this was based on public health. Let's just say, for example, or you can do promoting wellness also. Key characteristics over here, I would say I would fill up teamwork and leadership because I was involved as a primary investigator and stuff like that. Okay. So again, conducted a cross-sectional study to assess the awareness of antibiotic resistance in rural and urban practices, then studied the sample. And again, my role comprised of data collection from the study participants by distributing questionnaires. Our study findings included better knowledge about antibiotic resistance, etc., etc. Whatever was your conclusion. Okay. So then, since I was short of words in this, so I tried to write the conclusion over here. And after that, what I did was I wrote a brief sentence about the results. Like based on a result, we organized the information, education, and communication to promote behavioral modifications and improve the knowledge about appropriate antibiotic usage. Okay. So in this, what I've highlighted, I highlighted what I did. I highlighted the area where I work. I highlighted what I try to achieve with the study. Okay. So if you're doing some research or anything, if you're doing a volunteer activity, just make sure you're trying to highlight what you really achieve from that and not like you just did it for the sake of it. Just don't leave it open-ended. Your program directors or whoever is reading your application, they should feel that, okay, this person really did this project or research project to achieve something and not just because it was a requirement in his medical school. All right. My personal advice to you would be, if you are going through this, always have either some senior or some guide or some mentor to help you go through these experiences, because whatever you may write, even till the last day, you will still find some mistakes somewhere. I remember I had gone through 3 sets of mentors. One was my senior, another one was a PGY1 who was a friend, and the third one was someone whom I had paid to for CV editing and stuff like that. Okay. So very variable, depends on your budget, whatever contacts you have. My personal advice to you would be, when it comes to meaningful experience, what it asks you is 3 meaningful experiences. Okay. So they want to know what did you do during that, why was that experience meaningful for you, like by focusing on the key characteristic area which you tag. Okay. So if you guys remember, I just gave you an example. This is just a sample. Okay. Don't worry. So I had given you an example of what I did during COVID. So I'll be reading this out. During the devastating second COVID wave, I volunteered to set up a makeshift nursing home, help monitor patients, and organize door-to-door awareness campaigns. This enabled me to understand the importance of preventive healthcare at the grassroots level and help me serve the community better. Okay. So this was in 300 words. What I did, I addressed my key role over here. I addressed what I did over here, like preventive healthcare at the grassroots level. And I wanted to inculcate, and this made me aware of the preventive health and the public health issues which our country was facing. These are all the stuff you can write. Also, you might have noticed I mentioned this door-to-door campaign in the initial experience also and over here also. Why? Because in our ERAS application, the supplemental and the main ERAS were different, so there is an overlap. But right now, if you have to write this, you can just remove this part, like this devastating pandemic and stuff like that. This is just eating up words. You can just delete this, okay? And you can spend more time on the key characteristic. Like you can talk about this experience enabled me to understand the disparities in public health, which widened during the COVID pandemic. It made me aware and it made me realize the importance of preventive healthcare at the grassroots level, and I and now I want to help my community better at various levels, stuff like that. Okay, so that is one example for this meaningful experience. Then another meaningful experience could be one of your USC. Okay, so in that you can write what did you try to gain through a USC, like under the guidance of that certain professor, you realized you can talk about the advantages of American healthcare system, like how it was not just about numbers and treating patients, it was developing a connection with the patient and actually deep dwelling in their problems and understanding what they were facing through. And it was just not OPD numbers and stuff like that. Okay, so this is something you can write for one of your USC experience. Then coming to research experience, you could write something about research experience that you became aware of the whatever your research was there, like the importance of so and so thing in day-to-day activities and how you need to improve on that as physicians and how you can inculcate in these things in your practice and stuff like that. Like when I was working on that quality improvement project, if I had to write about it, I would say that I realized the importance of using technology to transition patients and create a smooth healthcare plan for everyone with less of human intervention, stuff like that. Okay, these are sentences which I'm saying at the back of my head, so don't just directly copy it. You can use whatever sources you want to write them out and edit them accordingly. Only thing is 300 characters you have to spend on writing about the focus area and key characteristics. So if you remember, the primary focus area was these things like basic science, research, medical education, stuff like that. And key characteristics were things about resilience, teamwork, etc. So if you have mentioned these things and you're writing that experience, just make sure you are inculcating and revolving things around them and writing it out. All right. That when this thing was a part of our supplemental ERAS, we had this exact same lines written over here, which said that programs do not expect all applicants to complete this section. So this was optional. But like the typical IMG mindset, we have to fill up every column, and we like to fill up every column. In fact, we try to use every column to our advantage and try to fill up stuff so that we can showcase something or the other. Okay. So if you have a story to tell, like during my time, I think I have it open. During my time, so my dad and my grandmother were admitted in the hospital between my exams. Okay. I think I have that experience written. Yeah. So yeah, something like this in my impactful experience. Like during the previous year, my family faced numerous health challenges. My grandmother was admitted due to heart failure, stuff like that, and my dad was admitted with pneumonia-related complications. So this is what I try to write. Again, you see what I try to do with this. I try to highlight this quality of resilience and adaptability. Like despite all these hardships, I try to do well in my USMLE exams. I try to take them on time and I try to be ready and adaptable to deal with the situation. So your main goal through each column is to highlight all those key characteristics. Okay. In fact, I would say just take a screenshot of those key characteristics, print them out and put them in front on your laptop as a sticky note. And remember that whenever you are filling up your ERAS CV, any column, just remember you have to revolve it around all these qualities. Okay. So this is like a trick. Coming to another part, publication. So as and how it is written, you will write it over here. So if you have published something in peer-reviewed journals, you will mention it over here, like mentioned in these columns. If you have submitted something in journals and they are yet to be published, so you usually write it in this column, which says that peer-reviewed journal articles, abstracts other than published. So I had this case report, duodenal flexure adenocarcinoma case report. So you write the authors over here, you write the publication name, you write the publication status. During my ERAS application time, it was submitted. So I wrote it as submitted. it was not accepted that time, so I did not choose accepted or provisionally accepted. So it was, I wrote it like that. Okay. So it was just submitted, and it was submitted in September 2022. So I just mentioned it. Okay. And if you have any URL, you'll mention it. Okay. Same for all these things, other articles, poster presentations. If you have done like those ACP presentations, if you have done oral presentations, if you have done peer reviewed online publications, etc., etc. All right. Very good. Now coming to the program signals part. So see, you have 7 signals. Okay. If you are going for internal medicine, if you're going for pediatrics, you have 5. If you're going for surgery, you have 5. Okay. Whatever number of signals is there. So with the signals, I would say what you have to do is you have to remember that you are aiming at places where you have a good chance and you have a decent chance. Okay. Uh, Most people use signals as a safety net. Now, the impression whether you heard back from your signals, from your 7 signals, did you hear back from anyone? I would say I just heard from 1 signal. Why? Because I had done a rotation over there, I guess. So that is one way of thinking it. But there have been some people who heard from 5 out of the 7 signals. So what, or none of the signal also. So you have to fit in judiciously. Just don't write if you have given 7 signals and you're just aiming arrows. You don't fill up like 3 Mayos, 2 Cleveland clinics, and 1 Harvard, and just hope that if you signaled them, you'll get an interview from them. It is not like that. Okay. So please put in places where you feel that you have a good shot and where you feel that you have a decent shot. Okay. So that's how you have to put it. And you are the best judge of your CV. And I think if you want to discuss these programs and all, we might have services later on to talk about whether you have a shot and whether they are good programs to submit and not. Okay. All right. That's all. In the end, you certify everything. All right. I think this is how you can access my portfolio on Program Insider.